Hello friends, fans, YouTubers, casuals passing by, anybody watching. Today I'm continuing the theory lessons. Last week we talked about chord scales. Today I want to talk, get a little bit more into them in a simple way. So I broke down the theory of how the chord scales occur last week. Today I'm going to just give you a somewhat all-encompassing way to just play those chord scales using chords you might be familiar with or should be familiar with if you want to get into the various styles like Rockabilly and Psychobilly and anything really. So we talked about last week how we build our scales from our chords from the 7 degrees of the major scale. Okay, so if we were in C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, having discussed, oh, we have a visitor. Hey, buddy. Having discussed the chords that we build off that in that video, I would say if you haven't seen that, go back and watch it now. It's only about 10 to 12 minutes long, and it's completely worthwhile. Okay. These also on my Patreon, I have the build of that on a fretboard chart. Today, I just want to basically teach you the 4 major chords you would use if we did it from a root 6 point of view, how to do it from different keys, and then, root 5, like from the C, how to move that around into different keys, and of course using root 6 version of those chords as well. What do I mean by that? You're about to find out. So we have a C major chord, and that looks like this: 3rd fret on the 5th string, and then we have like an A chord. If you've learnt an A chord before, so it's like 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, all on the same fret. Take it up to the 5th fret, put your 1st finger on the 3rd, and there you go. Okay, so that's a C major chord. Last week we built it from a very basic point of view, but it's not necessarily how we actually play the chords in the most contemporary sense. We generally have box shapes all ready to go, and that's what we're going through. So here's our C major. If we flatten our finger, we can get that note as well. Now in terms of the tones that we're using, we've got the root note here, the 5th, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th, the octave there, same note, and then the 3rd goes here. So they're not laid out in perfect order the way we know and use these chords. Okay, so there's your C major, and then the next chord is a D minor. Again, theoretical reasons for why it's a D minor, I talked about in the last lesson, so check that out, okay? So the D minor chord looks like this. Play a power chord from the 5th fret. So we've got 5th fret, 7th fret on the 4th string, and 7th fret on the 3rd string. Get your pinky, put it on the 2nd string at the 6th fret. There's a minor chord. Flatten your 1st finger. You should be able to get that note as well. Now we move it up to an E minor. Same chord moved up 2 frets. Then we use the same chord we used for C major up at the 8th fret, and we have an F major. Okay, so C major, D minor, E minor, F major. G major, move it up to, same thing, same chord as before. Okay, now we're up at the 12th fret. Okay, this is about as far as I'd go, but I'll show you what to do to move this around shortly. So we have the same minor chord we used at D minor. Okay, we do that at the 12th fret now. We've got A minor. The next chord you won't see used a heck of a lot. I've covered this in a video previously where I talk about chord progressions, okay? But I'm doing this again to really build on what we've been doing. So we've got the B half diminished. Now, let's take this right back. So we're at the 14th fret now, minus 12 equals 2. Bring it back. That's actually a B as well. Same thing. So rather than keep running out of space up here, we're going to come all the way back here. B half diminished. Here's the B. Here's the flat 5 there. The flat 7 is there, and our 3rd is here. Okay. And I bar my 1st finger to get the 2 on the 5th and the 2 on the 3rd. Then I put my 2nd finger on the 4th string. Yeah, and there we go. And then we're back to C. So these are all the chords available, what we call diatonically, which is just staying in one key, staying in the key of C. These are all the chords that are available to you: C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B half diminished, and C. Now, it doesn't mean you have to use these chords. If you use different chords, like if I go C, D minor,
and then I want to use an F minor. I love that sound. Like, that's something I would definitely use. That sounds really cool. But it's a guide, and at least if you know all of these chords are in one key, like, what other chords can I use in C that I know will match? And it's a good starting point, and then you can muck around from there, okay? Try different things. It also means if you take those chords from that, you can play in all over the fretboard in C, and it will fit those chords because you're just staying in the key of C. There's nothing what we call outside, okay? Now, that's great if you're using chords on the 5th string, but what if you want to use chords from the 6th string? Well, what's going to happen here? So this C major, by the way, there's something I forgot. D minor, the minor chord, I didn't show you. Here's the root note, here's the 5. Same as when we play major, root note and 5. That doesn't change. Root note, 5th. Here's the root note again, okay? But it's the minor 3rd there. So when I taught you last lesson how to build a minor chord, we did this. 1st, flat 3rd, 5. Okay, that flat 3rd, that's the same note. We've just put it up here now and fattened up the middle. So as you can see, we don't get perfectly even chords. Now, perfectly evenly stepped chords, they tend to be spread around a little bit. Now, speaking of not being perfectly evenly stepped, let's get back to the root 6 chord. So if I wanted to do that same progression from C in a root 6, what I'm going to do is find C on the 6th string, which is here. Put your first finger on the 8th fret, and we're going to play this chord. Based on an E chord, like an E chord, bring it up, we have to cover off the strings that were open with a bar, and we'll pull it all the way up to here. That's a C major, okay? So that's 8th fret, 10th fret on the 5th, 10th fret on the 4th, which I'm using my pinky for, 2nd finger on the 9th, 1st finger on the 8th, 1st finger on the 8th, okay? And that's barring. I'll get into playing these as open chords as well, because obviously that's going to be nice and easy if you're not up with bar chords. So hang around for that. So here's our C. D minor, a minor chord, 10, 12, 12, 10, 10, 10. With all these root 6 chords, obviously the root note, like with C, is going to be on the 6th string. The 5th is here. The root note again is here. At that point, it's not a major or a minor chord. Hence, when you see power chords in tabs, you might see them as a 5 chord. It's here where we add the major 3rd. Or where in a minor chord, you'd have the minor 3rd. Okay, and then we fatten the chord up with the additional notes, which are the 5th and the root note again. Okay, which again don't determine the chord, the quality of the chord or the type of chord, I should say. They sort of just fatten it up a little bit. So there's our C major, our D minor, 10, 12, 12, 10, 10, 10. Okay, there are our 2 main shapes that we're going to use here. So we've got major, minor. Now instead of going up to the E minor here, why don't we just use an open E minor? Same chord without the need to bar. Okay. Then we move up to the F major, then G major, then A minor. Okay, you know the minor chord, the same as the D. Okay, same as the E minor, except we weren't barring for E minor. And then B half diminished from here, I would play it like this. Here's the root note, here's our flats, well, for this chord I want you to use the 7th degree. I actually completely skipped over this before. This chord sounds pretty ugly if you just play it as a bog stock root note, flat 5 and flat 3rd. It's quite hard to play as well. You're going to end up playing something like this. So use this voicing if you do want to use this chord, but it does have a flat 7 in it as well. We've actually added another note. So we've got the root note, the flat 7, the flat 3rd, okay, and the flat 5 is back here. You could play the flat 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's right. I'm going back to a major to refer to the tones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the flat 5. Okay, but we don't want to play it here. A little bit muddy. You can play it there, but it's muddy. B minor 7, flat 5. And then we are back to the major. So that's how you do it on a root 6. And if you're really clever, you can combine everything and use your chords in a more neat pocket. So we could go C, D minor, E minor, F, play G major from here, A minor, B half diminished, C. Okay, if we're doing the key of D, for example, you might start up here, the 10th fret, or you could start at the 5th fret here. You've got all these options. Okay, so D, E minor, F sharp minor. How do I know to go to F sharp? Well, that's where you have to learn your cycle of fifths. Know at least the first degree of each chord by learning your cycle of fifths, which I've covered in my theory videos. You can go back and do them as well. Now, at this point, instead of continuing on from there, we could always come back to G here, or we could go and come back to F sharp minor here, G, A major, B minor, C sharp half diminished. Okay, so these are all the chords just in a major scale. You want to start messing around with that, you're welcome to. Like even a blues, for example, a regular blues. If we did that in the key of G, G major, C major, D major, and G. Now the chords that you would actually probably use in a blues or a rockabilly type thing would probably be dominant sevens. Now this is interesting because firstly, without getting too far into it, we're not really using sevenths in this lesson, only a little bit. But if we were to, you are just adding an extra note to the fray. And look, we'll get into that in another lesson. I just want to explain one thing real quick. So in a blues, you would actually be playing like a G dominant seven, maybe. All of those chords are dominant seven chords, but the point is that they're all borrowing notes from outside of the major key. That's the point I want to get to, other than just playing a cool little rockabilly ditty. I kind of want to make that point. So don't be made to feel rigid by learning this stuff. It's just a starting point and a reference point. So now in our next lesson, if we talk about seventh chords and talk about stepping outside of the key, you actually have a reference point. If we don't learn the starting point, we have no reference point. So anyway, I'm going to include on my Patreon, there will be some chord charts for these basic chords. So if you're not a member, I highly recommend, even the $2 option will get you access to all of that stuff. Okay, well actually it's pretty much the same thing. It's just up to you how much you want to contribute, but it's definitely worth having a look. Because it really helps, all this material, and as you can see there's a lot of stuff going up, but yeah, I definitely encourage you to give that a go. Now other things that are coming up, by the way, Heck to Hell, that's a Vaudevillains song, so I'm transcribing that at the moment. That hopefully I'll try and finish that next week or so. It's a big one, folks, so there'll be a video and the transcription. Yeah, and more. I'll do some chicken picking stuff, some hybrid picking, thumb picking. There's a whole lot of things coming. So hopefully you've got something out of that. I hope I've covered what I wanted to cover today. If you've got questions, shoot them through. But yes, work on those chord voicings. Check out the Patreon. See you next time.